standing for Reform UK in Rochdale is the aforementioned former Labour MP, now Reform candidate. It is Simon Danczuk. Simon, are you feeling confident?
Well, we'll have to wait and see. It's now time to find out, isn't it? And I think it's really close. I think it's very difficult to call. It's sort of a four-way fight in many ways. So we'll see what it turns out like later today.
Yeah, OK. Now, this, as far as I could tell, became a by-election where voters were given a choice between Rochdale and Gaza. And arguably it's quite concerning if they decide to vote for Gaza, isn't it?
Well, that's exactly how Galloway tried to frame this election. It's the most extremist election I've known in my 35 years in British politics. There's been intimidation, there's been threats to members of the public who are supporting particular people, intimidation around polling stations. There's been a dramatic increase in people signing up to vote by post. So there's been a really unusual sort of approach to democracy in this by-election. There's no doubt about that. And I think in the aftermath, we have to ask questions about how democracy is working in by-elections like this. But you're exactly right. Galloway's come in. The Galloway circus has come into town. He's tried to appeal to a very vocal minority in the town in the hope that he will just scrape through and the large silent majority will splinter all over the place, and then he will have a chance to become the MP on the back of Gaza. He's very much exploiting the Middle East situation in the hope that he can become the MP for Rochdale. That's the reality of it.
You've mentioned that there's been quite an extremist undertone to this particular by-election. We played a clip a bit earlier on there of you getting, well, turfed out, essentially, or leaving of your own accord, but not particularly welcome anyway, hustings, for example. Dirty tricks in this by-election, do you think?
Oh, plenty of them, without doubt, and you illustrate it with that example. This was supposed to be a hustings so that the people of Rochdale could decide on who they might want to vote for in this by-election. But the panel consisted of George Galloway and a very weak Liberal Democrat candidate. They refused to put me on the panel for no reason whatsoever, except that I would have given Galloway a good run for his money. So plenty of dirty tricks in this campaign. I've experienced many of them. People who've been supporting me have been intimidated by Galloway goons. There's no doubt about that. This is not how we should be carrying out democracy in Britain in the 21st century. There are real questions to be asked.
Without going into anything specific that may or may not involve any kind of active proceedings or anything, you mentioned some other examples there about some of your supporters allegedly being intimidated by goons. Would you mind just expanding on that, please?
Yeah, so one or two businesses that decided to endorse me, which isn't unusual in an election campaign, have found themselves being intimidated, sent violent and aggressive messages to the point where they've had to, pull back from actually endorsing me. I mean, it's absolutely appalling behaviour, but I'm not surprised by it. This is clearly being done by supporters of Galloway. There's no doubt about that. He's come into town and he's created division. I met a senior councillor a week or so ago, doesn't support me, but he'd been campaigning for another candidate in this by-election, and he said when we went into one particular area, people were throwing stones at us. That's the sort of division that's been created by Galloway's circus in Rochdale.
Well, obviously, it's vitally important to say that George Galloway is not here to defend himself. The offer is open to George Galloway and has been made, by the way. No doubt he would deny some of those allegations. Well, look, Simon, take care, and we will find out in a few hours, won't we, I suppose, whether or not you have indeed swept to victory.